Hello, I'm Irene Zande, and I am the director and founder of Kidpower. It's a nonprofit organization that teaches children, teens, and adults all over the world how to use their power to be safe from bullying, abuse, and other violence. Today I'm going to be talking about what if our child gets lost? And how can we make safety plans and teach kids skills in our families? I'm so pleased that we have been invited by Vicki and Jen.com to present on this very important topic that is so essential for families. This video is part of our virtual book tour that is celebrating the release of our new Kidpower book for caring adults, which takes our 23 years of experience and puts it at the fingertips of parents and teachers and all adults who care about the safety of young people. Today we will be talking about what we need to know and do and what we need to teach our kids to both to prevent kids from getting lost, and then because all of us can get lost sometimes, what do we need to know and do just in case that happens. As a parent, I can remember the petrified feeling I would have when one of my kids suddenly was where I couldn't find her or him. I especially remember my son at age 4. He had decided to kind of dive into the clothing rack as a fun place to hide. And all of us were shouting his name, and it was only when my husband, thank goodness, stepped back and saw 2 little pairs of feet under the shirts that were hanging that we found out where he was, because he thought he was playing a game of hide and seek. By the way, one of the things we teach kids is to check first and make an agreement before you play hide and seek. For kids, being lost can be really scary too. I can remember in one of our first classes a girl who was 10 who told me a story about when she was 3 years old, and she remembered being lost in a store, and she remembered a lady she didn't know suddenly taking her hand and starting to lead her out of the store. Thankfully, she pulled her hand away and went and got her mom, but she still remembered it 7 years later because she hadn't known what to do. The great thing was I could tell her she'd made a lot of great choices, and we were going to practice even more. So, first, you want to start with recognition that getting lost is normal, and it can happen in seconds, any place. Even if you've been holding your child's hand 1 minute in the grocery aisle, turned around to answer something on your cell phone or to answer a text, and suddenly you turn around and your kid's not there. So part of what we teach kids to do is to stay together. In fact, this is a safety sign we teach kids, young kids, saying stay together when you're out in public. And another safety sign that you can remember is check first. You want to check with your adult before you move away to play hide and seek, or even just to look at a cereal box that you're curious about. We want, when you go to a new place, to make a plan together for what to do if you get lost. And remembering that kids, for them, their memory last week, especially for younger kids, but even older kids, what seems familiar to adults often can seem strange to children. So let's make a safety plan for what to do in case we get lost. And we literally have kids practice that. We have them pat the arm of their grown-up as they go into the store and say, "Excuse me, what's our safety plan if we get lost here?" If you don't make a plan with your kids, they might make a plan that you wouldn't like. I once asked a group of second graders, that's 7-year-olds, where they thought safety would be in a great big store like Costco. Where would they go if they got lost from their adults? And they discussed it, and then they said, well, we would wait by the bathroom. And I said, why? And that's bathrooms in the back and kind of isolated. I said, why? Why would you wait by the bathroom? And they said, well, because then, if you needed to go to the bathroom, it would be right there. Perfect 7-year-old logic, but not what we want them to do. So we want kids, if they get lost, to go through a series of steps. First of all, we don't want them running off to the checkout counter. We do want to agree on a spot to meet if some of those other steps don't work. And usually a place that's stationary, where at the amusement park where they're selling the tickets or refreshments. If it's at the zoo, it might be one of the shops at the zoo. We want where somebody is selling something or somebody is working as much as possible. So we make a plan that's specific to that place. And often we'll say, to go to not just any checkout counter, because if you're a young child, think of it. There's this whole row of huge checkout counters in a big store. So if they have numbers, we might say, go to checkout counter number 1. Part of preparing kids is not making the first time they interact with somebody at checkout counter number 1 being when they're lost. If you can, get them used to maybe helping to buy something. Maybe introduce them to, if a child's worried about getting lost, or if you're if you're in a really unfamiliar place, maybe even saying, this is where you go and this person will help you. But then so we've got our safety plan. We also are preventing by agreeing to stay together and to check before going away. And now, what if the child is standing there and looks around and you're not there? We have kids, if they don't have something else to do with their bodies, then they might collapse and cry. And even if it doesn't make them less safe physically, it can certainly make them feel much less safe emotionally. So we tell kids, stand tall and strong like the trunk of a tree. And we have them practice standing tall and strong with their arms at their body. I used to say like a tree, and then they went up like this, so they're branches. So like the trunk of a tree. Then we say the next thing is that you look around. And we have them practice looking around. And we'll give them something to look at. So we'll say, can you see the plant up there? Or the book? So that they're actually looking and seeing what they're looking at. Because they're going to look around to see if they can find their grown-up. Next thing is we have kids practice calling. And we might have them practice if we're in a group, we might have them practice all the different ways that every child in the group might call the name of their grown-up. It might be Mom, Dad, Mama, or it might be Abuelo, it might be Papa. It could be all sorts of names. Or it could just be, if they can't think of anything else, I often have them just yell, Irene, which would be me. So they yell the name of the grown-up that they normally call, by the name they normally use for that grown-up. They've looked around, they've yelled, it didn't work, usually it will, and then they follow their safety plan. They go to checkout counter number 1. And we say to kids, so would you wait? Imagine that there's the checkout counter. We actually act this out with kids every single step of the way. And we say, what if you had a long line of customers? Would you go to the front of the line or the end of the line? Most kids will say the end of the line, because that's what they've been taught to do in a store. And we say, you wait when you want something. You want to interrupt and keep asking if you have a safety problem. And if you're lost, that's a safety problem. So we teach them to go in front of the other customers, often for a smaller child to go around the counter to get the attention of the busy cashier. Then we pretend to be a busy cashier who says, you need to wait at the end of the line. So we want them to persist in asking for help. And we have them say, but I'm lost, I need help. And then we have the cashier say, well, what's the name of the grown-up you came with? Because that's really what, rather than asking a child what their name is, they should be asking for the name of their grown-up. And in that case, we want to make sure that the child knows your actual name, not just Mom, but what is your name, or not just Dad, but Ed, for example. And then they say, and then we have the cashier pretend to be on the loudspeaker, calling for Ed, your daughter's here, and she's waiting for you at checkout counter number 1. And then we have the adult come rushing up. Sometimes we're taking on all of these roles, and the child is just doing what a child needs to do, and saying, oh, there you are. Good for you. You followed our safety plan. We want to make it a joyful thing to know how to be safe and what to do if you're lost, rather than a frightening one of all the things that might happen. Let's focus on what we can do to keep kids safe. Now, as the adults, of course, when you cannot find your child right away. It is, of course, hard not to fight panic. You need to get very focused. You want to look around yourself, call the child's name. Remember that even if you did make a safety plan about not playing hide and seek, as kids forget, so you want to look around where they might be playing. And as quickly as possible, you want to notify the security guards. They have radios. They can, you want to have a description of your child. Most of the time, kids get found within a few minutes. But you want to get help quickly just in case. And then when you do find your child, the first thing you want to do is say, there you are, I'm so proud. It sounds like we got a little mixed up. You want to not act panicked. And this is where you, again, we've said this before, get to win the Academy Award because you want to make it feel good for your child to get back together with you rather than scary. And then you can review what the safety plan is and what they can do. We have all of this, in case you were wondering, oh dear, how am I going to keep track of all this? We have this all in our Kidpower book, both how to prepare kids and what to do in case something doesn't work. We have 4 different sections in the book. The Kidpower method shows how we teach in a way that is joyful and fun and that practices every skill instead of just discussing what to do. And also how we protect kids until they're really prepared to protect themselves. We have for every section how to project, for example, project an attitude of awareness, because when a child is acting and being aware, that child is more safe because he or she is paying attention. And, of course, what the safety plans are in case you do get lost. What is it that you do as a child, and how do you practice step by step, just like I've explained? And finally, we have our Kidpower solution. So in the middle section of the Kidpower, we have the Kidpower method, then we have the Kidpower skills, and then we have solutions using those skills to bullying and abuse and teaching about stranger safety and protecting kids from kidnapping. And finally, our last section is about advocacy and what we can all do to create a community of caring, respect, and safety for all young people everywhere. If you have any questions about safety for you or your family, or about ways to build kids' confidence in their abilities to be with people and to build healthy relationships, we hope you will email us at safety@kidpower.org and look at the wealth of material on our website at kidpower.org. I want to thank you for joining us today, and we really look forward to hearing from you with your questions, success stories. And again, you can get a copy of the book at Amazon or on our website at kidpower.org. Thank you again.